So it's 10:30. I would start right now. I hope you are all well and everybody's doing fine. So I'm going to talk to you in my next 20 minutes about how we can change our perceiving of leadership in these challenging times. Giving you a quick introduction on me, my name's Saskia. I'm an expert consultant and speaker on digitalization as a facilitator. That means I support companies when they want to become digital and tell them or show them how they can use the digitalization for their good and how they can become better companies by using the digitalization to help them. Another topic I'm really interested in, and that's probably why I'm here today, is feminism in the digitalization. So how do these two intertwine? In the next 20 minutes, I'm giving you a short impulse on the topic with a lot of input, actually. So in my test, I wasn't really able to get any time left for questions, but I will stay online after the talk to monitor the chat. And you can see my two social media handles down and at the bottom. Feel free to ask me any questions there, and I will definitely get back to you there. Okay, so digitalization, woohoo. I hope you all have a definition in mind of the word. There's so many different words out there. Think of that, what you associate with the digitalization. And I'm probably going to turn that head over. So as there are so many definitions and descriptions out there, some of them that are even used synonymously, I'm going to give you a short introduction at the beginning about how I define these words. Because when we talk about digitalization, mostly it's about three things. It's the digitization, it's the digital transformation, and it's the digitalization. The digitalization as a whole actually is just the last part of a three-step program. Actually, there are more steps on it, but to make it simple, I'm going to concentrate on these three steps. The first one is the digitization. That is, according to Wikipedia, the process of converting information into a digital, that is, computer-readable format. Nothing less than taking your vinyl record, putting it into a machine, and at the end of the process, you have an MP3 that you can play on your iPod, for example. So it's nothing more, but also nothing less than just transforming your information that you had on an analog thing, like a paper or the vinyl, and put it into digitals, zeros and ones. The next step is the digital transformation, where you take these information, which you just digitalized, or which you created in a digital process, or you use digital technology to create an already existing analog process or business model. You just use these digital things to support that process, but the main thing of the process still goes in an analog way. And the last step, and that is the important step we will be talking about right now when I finished with that lot of definitions, that is the digitalization. And that is developing a business model completely based on digital technology. If it is the internet, if it is algorithms, blockchains, artificial intelligence, whatever's out there and whatever's out there to come. These technologies are mostly used to create or to have a bigger value, a bigger revenue, to generate more of that. And this is also where the so-called digital mindset comes into play. So when we talk about becoming digital, we also have to talk about a shift in a mindset. Keep that in mind. So what is the digitalization made of then? Yes, of course, we do have a lot of technical aspect to it. We have more powerful technology around us that gets more and more compact. For example, this thing here, my mobile phone, if I happen to be in space with that, with a Falcon, for example, right now, I could land on the moon, because this little thing has more power in it than the Apollo's guidance computer that landed the 3 astronauts in the 60s on the moon. So we have a lot of technology that can do a lot of things. And especially, for example, the internet, it's really easy to use. It's very versatile to use. So that makes it pretty easy to access the technology. But technology alone is not what it's about. Because if we really look, or if we really live in these revolutionary times that people call it sometimes, it takes more than just the tools. And yes, we are in fact living in the middle of the so-called third media revolution. We started from oral communication to written forms of communication that saved the knowledge and detached it from the individual mind. Then we went to modern typography, which allowed us to multiply the possibilities and effects of writing. And now with the electronic media, we are able to multiply the informations that are available every time, everywhere, and without a loss of quality. So not just the methods change, but the whole culture of how we access, process, and generate information and knowledge in that changes. So what is it that really drives this change? It's the so-called VUCA world. I think you probably heard of it. It's the three terms: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, that changes how we perceive the world right now and the speed and the pace of the world right now. And this VUCA thinking also really changes how our business world thinks of things. So how we think of innovation cycles that are much, much more quicker on how we think of products in general. Think of software. Products don't have to be physical anymore. And that also changes how we perceive things like value change or cost efficiency. But is that also still the end of what the digitalization drives? No, it's not. Because what really changes how we communicate and how we connect to people. And that is where the digitalization really, really hits. The digitalization connects people. We lose the resistance against using these technologies, which we are not used to, or people who come right now, people who grow up right now are used to it, but people who are older are not used to this technology. But how do we lose the resistance against it? We use it because we, the social animals we are, have a means to facilitate our connections to other human beings. We don't have to travel so far. We don't have to write letters and wait for answers. We can just take our phones, call a number, and talk to other people. And creating this connection has also turned out to be a competition advantage. Think of Facebook or LinkedIn, which are the obvious examples to it, but also think of Amazon, who managed to connect vendors to buyers, or think of Google, who connects the people who look for information to the people who emit these information. So if the digitalization is about the people, that leads us with a good message. On the one hand, because we do not need computer scientists necessarily to set up a digital business. They might come in handy on the way, but you don't need them necessarily to start. Developing a digital mindset is hence not dependent on your knowledge of the technology. But that also means digitalization is not a thing of expert knowledge or of technical tools. It is a thing of adaptability. How well are people prepared to adapt to changing needs of people? That means your clients and your employees. And that also leads to the fact that experience alone doesn't make you clever anymore. Information never became old that fast. So reflection is essential. Even if you think you're technically savvy, you need to reflect on your knowledge. So to sum that up, the human being has to be the center of all of your efforts. In fact, what we see as this new form of leadership right now with all the people working from home, and it works surprisingly, all these things are not new. They have been the center of management literature for years now, but they clash with the hierarchical structures that we have been building and nourishing for decades. That is, we claim economic efficiency and cost-benefit relation as the holy grail. You have this one leader, this alpha male, mostly male alpha animal, at the top, who was kind of the hero of the story. And you have a workforce that, due to fear-based sanction systems that are in place, do not want to take over responsibility and thus, willingly or not, oversee recent trends. So if we do not want to proceed like that, how should leadership look like in these times? And there's one simple rule for that: people first, technology second. Leaders who want to lead the change need to see what their employees want and what drives them. So why is it so important what the employees want? Are we the one who give them the jobs? No, well, yes, you are the ones who gives the jobs, but you are in the so-called war for talents. Everybody's talking about the war for talents, but let me tell you, the war for talents is actually over, and the talents won. They have a lot of different companies they can choose from. So if you want to have the good people, either train your own or offer the people out there a good thing. So what drives these new talents? It's on the one hand, the demographic change. The people who join the workforce, who are the younger ones coming fresh from university, they now come with a different aspiration to what their job needs to offer. And that is on the one hand, the purpose. They want to have purpose in their work, and they want to have a work-life balance. That does not necessarily mean working less, having more life, but they want to have a good connection. They don't have a problem to work over hours or work at night if they can then take a morning off because they want to meet with a friend for breakfast. Another thing that's driving this change is that classical careers are dying. Breaks in career changes in the CV are more and more becoming normal. There are jobs that young people take that didn't exist 10 years ago and which might not even exist in 2030. So look for a social media manager. The job wasn't there 10 years ago. Do we still need social media in 10 years? Nobody knows. And the last thing that really drives this is the globalization. And that is not just of the goods, like you can trade goods all around the world, but you can also have information joined all around the world. There's nobody telling you you can't hire someone from India if you're sitting in Spain, for example. Yeah. So whoever still wants to exist in 10 years' time needs to be curious and willing to learn lifelong. There are studies who prove that companies who think they won't exist anymore in 10 years mostly blame it on the market situation. But the ones, however, who are convinced they will still be there, they make their digital capabilities responsible for it. Look for that. And all that put together makes success a team effort. And by that, I also mean you need to include more diverse team in your decision-making processes. So I encourage you to look for gender, to look for color of your skin, but not to make it an excluding factor, but on the opposite, include all gender and all colors of the skin into your team. Just to give you an example on gender, it is scientifically proven to give you that teams with a diverse gender background, let's do it like that, perform better. So excluding women from your team actually costs you money. And I am really assured that there are several studies proving the same for the skin of color or other points we talk about when talking about diversity. So take that into account, but also look for people with a quote unquote inconsistent CV, because everybody can help you to give better ideas, to make existing solutions better. They can give their knowledge and their experience. And last thing, stop fixing people who do not fit in. Start fixing workplaces and make it an environment where everybody can thrive. And I highly recommend you to join Michelle King's talk later on. She's the director of inclusion at Netflix, and she has a lot to say about that. So if you want to get deeper into that, join her later on. So this all means that leaders have to, and now that's the bad part for the leaders, they have to lose power over. They have to give their teams more responsibility to have power for something, for the success. Leaders should see themselves more as a servant leader who give trust, encouragement, and strength. And by strength, I do not mean the force sense of the word, but more the support to lift up sense. A quick word on your processes, because that also needs to be taken into account. A German communication CEO once said, if you transform a crappy process into digital, you have a crappy digital process. don't solve problems you don't have because you like the solution or because you think everybody's doing it. That doesn't help your cause. A good example for that is how everybody's right now is using blockchain or AI, no matter the sense. Look at your processes, deconstruct them, define your goal, and then see what processes you want to have and what technologies really support your work there. And then go for that. And to finish, I want to give you one last idea, and I want to attract you to that idea. Let's all concentrate more on what we as humans can do best. We won't win the race for mathematical excellence. That trophy is already with the computers. We don't even have to start there. But we can concentrate on our strength, that is creative thinking and emotional intelligence. And then we can aim for a state where we can live side to side with our computers, and they can be our facilitators on tasks that support our creativity. We have the chance to combine knowledge in a new way, and we can decide to take the logically stupid way. But with that, our brain is able to innovate. These stupid ideas make innovations. So for that, we also need to allow ourselves to make mistakes. Think of all the wonderful mistakes you made in your life, I made in my life, and that brought us and humanity so much further. If you think of antibiotics, for example, they were a mistake, but that was a mistake that saved millions of lives over the course of times. And with that put together, we can create the future. We don't need to just let it happen to us. So, in summary, the digitalization is a change in values, not in methods. It completely overthrows our values we have right now. There's no master plan. There's no size fits all. It is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and probably a marathon that will never end. And we have to actively create this new world to run into the right direction. But if we do so, we can define anew what it means to be human in this digitalized world. And we have the chance to define anew if we are working machines that late capitalism made us, or if it's in the end, it's all about staying aware of the changes, staying open to them, and staying curious. Knowing the basics in the world of zeros and one is completely sufficient. You don't have to have everything in mind. You have staff for the rest. But as long as you stay open to the constant changes, if you as a leader create a flourishing environment for your employees, and if you see yourself as what a leader should be, that is motivating and enabling, the rest will follow. So take that, put it into work, and then we have the chance to create nothing less, I think, than a gorgeous future. I, for my part, am really looking forward to experiencing that, and I'm really looking forward on seeing you join me on the ride. So thank you for your attention, and I have 2 minutes left for questions I'm seeing, so if you do want to join me. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting in touch with you. I'm putting my LinkedIn there just for you. If you have any more questions, as I just said, join me, contact me. Happy to help you with everything. Malak, I just read your questions. Any tips on how to adapt to change in a fast way? I would say actually there's no fast track for change. Because you really need to get that in your bones. You can do little steps that you can implement fast, and please feel free to contact me on that. I can give you a little hints on that, but to really drive change, you really need a long breath. I'm sorry. Paula, if you're still on, the name of the Netflix speaker was Michelle King. Hiba, any ideas on limiting the amount of ideas and multitasking? I would start on a blank page, actually, and just write down all the ideas, and then see or find out what helps you the most on a quick scale. Because if you want to have change, you need quick successes at the beginning. They don't need to be great or big, but they need to be successes, quick successes. So I would start with that, but keep the other ones in a back burner, yeah, and never lose them. And if it feels right, and if you have a plan for them to implement, do so. Go with that. Brianna, what's a good question to gauge the leadership style on a new organization? That kind of depends. If you're a brave person, I would just go with, how do you define yourself as a leader? Well, no, maybe not with that, but ask a question that goes for that. How do you define yourself as a leader? If the answer goes into the direction, I try to thrive people, perfect, go with that. That goes in the right direction. But if they are kind of compelling, saying like, I don't know, I lead my team, or I give them the work, that is always kind of a red signal, a red flag, where you need to be careful if that really is the direction you're going for. People who are open to new leadership ideas won't brag too much about it. So they will do that pretty subtle, but people who are not that far and who think themselves great leaders mostly will brag about it and say like, okay, I with my team achieved this and that, or I lead my team like that. So Alexandra, how do you think it is possible to practically nurture a VUCA mindset and encourage teams and individuals to cope better with uncertainty and ambiguity? I think it's not possible to put that mindset from up or just put it over someone. You need to find people in your team who think like that. And my experience is you mostly will find them. There are always people who have this mindset already, but who are kind of toned down. But if you look for these people who are eager to give that, so let them join your team and let them join your new work-life force, let's call it like that, and work out a plan with them, and then let them take the excitement into the rest of your crowd. What words would you recommend using, especially on LinkedIn, to promote a team project if using with my team is not a good idea? I'm not quite sure if I understand that correctly. I think you want to go find a new team on LinkedIn that supports your ideas there, because your team you're working with right now can't support the project. I would actually go exactly with that and say what you want from the team, and be direct about what the project is, what you think the skills are you need, but don't go too much on the skill set, like I need to have someone who worked 5 years in operations or 5 years as an engineer. Go more with traits that come with the requirements you need. Like if you need an engineer who can, or let me think of, you want to build an app, and you need someone who does the front end. Don't go for, I need someone who did front end for 5 years, but go for someone who's creative, who has knowledge of user experience and design, who wants to give his work time to a great project, a great cause. So be open about what traits you look for in a person. Okay. Hey, Alexandra, but I also like the work-like force, actually. That is a good thing. I will keep that, if that is okay for you. So Sharon, what do you see as a needed key element for facilitating remote teams in the next 6 to 9 months? First of all, openness. And second of all, be kind to yourself. We are all in a new situation right now, and we all need to adapt to what is happening. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Don't be too harsh on your employees you work with, but stay open for the cause and say like, okay, let's try this. How does it work? That actually right now is a good time to try it, because you can, everybody will forgive you if you make mistakes because it's new for everybody, but you can also have quick fixes. You can quickly adapt to what is happening in your team. If you don't like it, talk to it, or talk it through with your team, and then look for a new solution. Malak, what would be the best values to keep as a leader if you were to focus on the human side in your work? I'm going to go with that and say the humanity. We are all people who are working there. We are not machines. As I said, stop fixing the people, start fixing the workplaces. And go with your emotional intelligence, go with your empathy, and go with how you can motivate yourself for the project. If it is possible, one has to admit, if the project allows it, but if you yourself have fire for the project, bring that fire to your people. And that is definitely a value you should keep in your company. Yeah, I think that's probably the best values I as a person would keep. And I can tell you from other work experiences, I didn't really have luck to have a good boss in my workplaces. And what I mostly missed and what made all the difference was the personal, the human interaction. If you were valued, if you had the feeling you were valued, if you had the feeling your ideas were valued. They might be wrong, but we can talk about that. We don't have to make ourselves smaller as persons just to make ourselves as a leader greater, or to promote ourselves as the better person. So keep a certain humble view of yourself, but also, and value your employees, but also bring the fire to the people. Okay. You are very welcome. I see no more questions. So if you still come up with questions, as I said, feel free to contact me via my social media. And thanks for listening. Thanks for staying on that long. And enjoy the rest of your conference. Bye-bye.